enough of all the stats. I've only got a finite amount of time tonight. Please welcome Mikey Madison. So first of all, congratulations. How was your night?
Oh, thank you. It was so fun. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah, very exciting and sort of unexpected too, which I think makes it even more fun.
All right, so not unexpected to me because I voted for it. But I gotta say, so this journey really started for you, with the first conversation that you had with Sean Baker, writer director Sean Baker. What was that first conversation like, and like what did he tell you about Annie?
Uh, we just met for coffee. This was a couple days after a horror film I had came out, and he went to go see it in theaters, and he really just sat down, we had coffee, we chatted. He pitched me a very loose idea for what the script might be. At the time, it was more of a like a Russian gangster film, but there was still the same storyline of essentially a young woman who realizes that she married the wrong man when it's too late. And he said, if I don't know, I haven't written this yet, but if you want to do it, I'll write it for you. And I said, absolutely, I would love to.
What is that like to have a conversation with a filmmaker who says he's going to write a film and write a character around you?
Well, that had never happened before.
Right.
I had never, ever had a director, especially somebody like Sean, want to collaborate with me like that. So it was really exciting, and also, there was a part of me, even though he had offered me the role and I accepted during our coffee meeting, that was like, oh, do I actually really still have the role? And so I made my agent reach out and ask just to triple check to make sure that I was cast, and I was, so yeah.
So when you finally saw the script, when you finally took the first pass, whether it was a final script or just like an early version of the script, how did it read, and what were some of the points of connection that you had with Annie?
Well, Sean is very famous for sending these like long voice messages, which is great. And so we were talking multiple times a week, and he was giving me updates on the script, and saying, oh, I just wrote this scene, this is where the script is going, or what do you think about this? Is this too much fighting? And I'm like, no, the more brawl, the better. And so I kind of knew a little bit about the story, but then reading it for the first time, it was so amazing because it really superseded any of my expectations. It was so funny, in that very specific, fucked up Sean Baker kind of way. And also just such an interesting, complicated character that I was really excited to get my hands on.
So I just think what a luxury for an actor to have an ongoing conversation with a filmmaker, so that you actually get to be part of the evolution and development of Annie, of the film itself. So when it finally got to a point where you were ready to like really start doing like a table read with the other actors, did you have a table read? When did you start to meet the other cast members in the film?
There was no table read. So I knew that when I first met Sean, he was like, okay, so I really want this actor, Yura Borisov, to also be in the film. And then obviously Karan Karagulian, who is in all of Sean's previous films and is kind of like his good luck charm, will be in the film too. And I was really excited because I love Tangerine, and I think Karan is so wonderful in that film. And so I knew that I would be working with them. And then, a couple days before filming, I met Mark, and, just met the other actors on set as we worked.
So that close to filming is when you met Mark for the first time, and yet you had this great dynamic with Mark, this great chemistry, this like high wire act for both of you, really. What was it like to meet an actor so close to when you started filming, and how did you sort of like find your way around that relationship, the two of you together?
Well, Mark, if you ever like watch an interview with him or something, he's very sort of similar energy to the character. You know, he's very like playful and youthful, and you know, he's really like keen to just make you laugh and goes to great lengths to tell a joke. And so there was instant connection. He's very charming and kind, and you know, there was definitely at the beginning a really big language barrier, but for whatever reason, we still were able to consistently like laugh with each other and have fun. And so, even if we had a hard time talking, like I remember this one time, this is maybe the second day we knew each other, he was trying to tell me this story where he was saying that he was looking out of this big glass window and he was like, and the whole world was on the tip of my nipple. And I was like, I think that you're trying to say something else. And I was like, no, the tip of my nipple. And I was like, okay. I think he was trying to say that the whole world was in the palm of his hand. But that just sort of encompasses who Mark is. And, you know, I think we really quickly had to build trust with each other. And we did. And it was a pleasure working with him.
But actually, I'm glad you brought up the word trust, because you know, a lot of these conversations that I have with actors and filmmakers, it's a two-way street, that trust, and especially because of the sort of I guess the adrenaline of the movie, and just how daring the film is, and how like exhilarating it is. It is a two-way street. So like with Sean, like how did you know, like how did you sort of build up that trust that you two had to each other, had in each other, especially because you didn't even have to like do a screen test or do an audition or anything like that?
I mean, I think at least for me, the trust was there. I don't know why he decided to trust me with this character, but I'm very grateful that he did. But no, I mean, I've loved his previous films. I'd seen all of them multiple times, and I knew the kind of work he did, and I was excited to tell a story in the way that he wanted to tell one. And so I completely went in fully trusting him. And he really trusted me too, to bring this character to life, to really build her from the ground up. I mean, he didn't even hear the accent until the first day of filming. He didn't even, I had been doing like months and months of really serious dance training and pole training. And there came a point where it was a couple of weeks to filming, and I was like, I should maybe send him a couple of videos so he knows what I've been up to these past 4 months. But he really trusted me, I trusted him, and I mean, we had about a year from when we met for the first time to when we were on set filming. So we had time to create a friendship, and so I always knew he would be there to guide me in the right direction, to reel me back in if I went too far out. Yeah, and I think he trusted me too to, you know, do my job.
So what was some of the things that informed it? Because you know, I'm hearing so much about, and of course I've read so much about how you had so much freedom to create Annie, to develop Annie. But what were some of the things that informed your approach to playing her? Was it some books you read? Was it movies that you saw, characters that you kind of identified with in other films? What informed your approach to Annie?
Yeah, it was like a mixture of a lot of things. I think, you know, I'd been thinking about her for a long time, but when I read the script, I was like, okay, I recognize this is someone who lives a very, very different life than me. I mean, a completely different universe in every single way. So I'm going to have to really do my homework and try to learn as much about her world as I can. And so, you know, one of the big things is she's a sex worker, and I know Sean works closely with that community and has dedicated a lot of his career to trying to destigmatize that kind of work. And so I read memoirs written by sex workers. I spoke to consultants that were brought into the film. I went to clubs. I shadowed dancers. I got dances. I was trained by a dancer based in Los Angeles, and really just tried to get to know and understand that community so I could try to represent them as best as possible. And then, you know, learning, you know, Russian wasn't a language I spoke before, and had to try to immerse myself as much as possible because my character, you know, speaks fluently. even though she speaks it in a very specific way with, an American accent. But and then, the dialect, it was just all of those things. I think that I just started small with each of those little things. And I think eventually it all just kind of came together to form the character.
So, with all the prep that you did for it, when it came time to do actual rehearsal, did you do rehearsal? Did you maybe try scenes way ahead of time before you actually started filming, or did you just jump right in?
No, we didn't. I mean, I remember maybe a month before filming, a couple months before, I went to Sean's house with Sammy, and we just kind of read through the script just so that they could hear the words out loud, because they had just been reading them on the page. But, I didn't do it with an accent or anything. We were kind of just trying to understand the pacing of the script. And no, not much rehearsal. Maybe before a scene we would.
That's really amazing. So the way Sean works, by the way, as far as Sean's filmography, obviously Florida Project and, like you said, Tangerine. If you haven't seen the movie Red Rocket, it's awesome. But talk about what kind of a director is it compared to other directors you work with, on big screen, small screen, but what makes him a great actor's director?
I really think it's just the collaboration that he's was willing to have with me. I've never had a director want to truly collaborate with me on every aspect of making the film. I was able to, I made Pinterest boards for my characters' costumes, hair and makeup. I chose the nails. I went shopping for my character's clothes. He really welcomed me into that process in a big way. Sometimes we were up late at night, sort of reconfiguring scenes and rewriting things, and so it was like a true collaboration on in so many different ways. And it was amazing for me. And I remember kind of going into maybe a month into knowing him, I was like, I'm really gonna have to let go of my imposter syndrome and just embrace this process, because I'm realizing how much he actually cares about my opinion. But it did take me a minute, because I just had never had that experience before.
So when things really sort of get kicked up a notch, when the family gets involved, and really that's where the movie takes a sharp turn. Which, by the way, there's also so much humor and levity in that second half of the movie. I was watching it, watching it for the first time at the Telluride back in September. I was laughing at certain things because it got kind of funny, and I was like, oh, thank God, because it was such a high wire act. But with all the collaboration you did with Sean, especially, did you have freedom to, especially with Mark and the rest of the cast, to improvise, or was it absolutely sticking to the script?
Just with the the home invasion sequence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, great example.
Is that what you mean, or?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I think that it depends on the scenes in the film. For example, the beginning of the film, the opening where you see Annie walking up to customers, it's all improvised. All the lap dances are improvised. They just put a mic on me. They had a full club up and running, and I would just, they had a long camera on a long lens and would just kind of follow me for 30 minutes straight, and we pulled bits and pieces from that. And then, there would be lines in the script that said, Annie shows off her dancer's flexibility. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Because I know that it's on me now to bring that to life. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to choreograph a striptease and that Annie will do for Vanya. And I presented it to Sean, and I picked a song and a costume, and he was like, yeah, that's great, let's make a music video out of it. And then there's some scenes that, are more just what's on the page. And so I think it just depended on what the scene was.
Wow. How many takes would Sean typically do of whether it's the home invasion scene or even just some intimate scenes with you and Mark? Did he kind of go on and on with some takes, or was it usually just maybe a few takes and let's move on?
I think it would depend on the scene. If he felt like we had it, then we had it. But for the home invasion scene, I did my own stunts, and so obviously that has to be very tightly choreographed, because there's vases being kicked and lamps falling over, and a pretty crazy situation. And so that was really, tightly choreographed, but it was also such a big sequence with so many different characters, lots of dialogue, lots of things that need to happen to propel the story forward. So we shot that a lot. We shot it for 8 days, and it kind of sometimes felt like we were just like shooting it forever. But yeah, I think it was necessary because, my character also, I never wanted her to stop fighting, stop talking, because one of my favorite things about the character is that she's such a fighter in so many ways, not just physically, but emotionally as well. And so I never wanted her to stop talking, and I think that probably drove Sean crazy in the edit. He never told me, but yeah, so it just depends, yeah.
So tell us about Yuri Borisov. He's also nominated for supporting actor. He's excellent in the film. And it's so funny because, like, between the two main guys in the film, you have one who's like very over the top, and then you got Yuri who's sort of dialed back. What was it like working with Yuri, especially as now he's a fellow Oscar nominee like you are?
Yeah, you're so amazing. It's really, really amazing for him because he's the first Russian actor since 1977 to be nominated. So really, like, history making for him, and he really deserves it too. Like, just really one of the kindest, most generous actors. Russian Stanislavski theater school trained actor, Mark as well, but from very different generations. And so I think you can really see the difference in them as people, like as men, and then also as actors, which is interesting. But yeah, you're a very unique actor, very soulful, really took it upon himself to just like take care of me during filming. He was quite literally like gluing me back together, literally with like a bottle of medical glue at the end of filming. And so he's wonderful. I remember the first day working with him, and my character's like hurling insults at him, and the look on his face, he's like genuinely hurt. And I didn't expect that from just reading the script, and I thought, oh wow, that's just a testament to who he is as an actor, that he can take a character and give it this very like earnest quality, and that's why everyone falls in love with the character on screen, I think. But yeah, it's just he's a really, really deep, very intelligent actor.
When I was watching it for the first time, I've seen it 6 times now, and I see 350 movies a year, so it's pretty rare that I see a movie that often. Anyway, sorry, I digress. I didn't know how it was going to end. I'm like, where's this going? How's this going to end? And I think, okay, he's going to drop her off and back home and drive off. But obviously, that's not what happens. The ending of this movie was so impactful that when it was over, I tell you, right, normally you just go on to the next movie, and I didn't do that. I just stayed there. I watched the credits. I just wanted to stay in the moment. What was it like to film that final scene with you and Yuri?
I've heard that a lot, and I think I remember in Cannes when we premiered it, at the end of, even during the credits, it was like completely silent, and Sean and I looked at each other like, oh, okay, like, I think people are supposed to clap right now. But I think it's just it's such like a shocking scene, and it's so uncomfortable, and so people really do just sit in it. And I've heard a lot of people say that they feel bad for laughing at Annie after that scene. But yeah, that was one I was really nervous to shoot, because I'm playing this character who I think is very, very vulnerable, very hurt, but is constantly covering it. Like, she has this tough, scrappy, like, layer of steel, as her barrier. And it's really only in those more private moments that you get to see how she actually feels. And so there's this moment where she's able to finally communicate with the one person who has actually treated her decently, just without any dialogue. And so, it was really on Yura and I to try to deliver as much as possible. And I also just felt a responsibility to my character. I just really wanted to do her justice in that moment and let her have a little bit of catharsis.
Sure.
And me as well, because I'm playing this tough as nails character with this vulnerability underneath it, and I found myself very much like holding everything in and not wanting to let anybody see me crack, and it was so strange because I'm really not like that at all. Like I'm very like I wear my heart on my sleeve, and um, yeah, and so it was a difficult one, but eventually I was like, I think I need I need to pull something from my personal life to just ground me more, and so I did, and I think it really brought Yura and I to a different place where we were able to film the scene, and it just felt right in some way. And Sean was in the car with us too in the back seat, which is pretty funny.
Is that the last scene that you filmed?
No, it was towards the end of production though, thank God, because I would look at it on the schedule and I would like feel nervous and my face would get hot and all that. But no, it wasn't the last yet.
So, you worked obviously with Quentin Tarantino on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So, I mean, that's obviously a great director you want to work with to like really like like expand your muscles as an actor. But I mean, just hearing just about all the collaboration that you had with Sean and just working with this amazing cast. For you as an actor, what are the biggest takeaways for you as an actor that you're like, this was a like going to grad school and all that stuff and everything. So, what were the biggest takeaways for you as an actor after making this film?
Oh my gosh, so much. I genuinely, this film has changed my life, not just because of like all this stuff that's happening, but just the experience of making the film, the experience of like collaborating with Sean in that way. Like he really cared about what I had to say and listened and really uplifted my voice, and I'm I think I learned a lot about my work ethic. I think that making this film has inspired me as an actor to, even next time just go even deeper in terms of like building a character. And I mean, yeah, it reminded me of like how I want to feel when I make movies, because this is my favorite thing in the whole world is filmmaking in any capacity. And so yeah, to be a part of it, making a film like Anora, was just really freaking special. Yeah.
So, with everything, like you said, over the last, like, whatever, 8 months and all this stuff. So, two questions, for last questions. So, first, like the very first time the movie screened in the public, which I guess was at Cannes, it's out there, it's done, no more tinkering, no more just, screenings for like people within the industry, whatever. Like, it's like a public screening. What was that experience like for you to have it screened for the very, very first time?
Well, it was really exciting because I mean I had been acting or like trying to act for a decade at that point, and going to Cannes was a career-long dream of mine. To also just to be in like the main competition with the film that I was in was like that was my ultimate dream come true, and we got to do that, and so that was amazing. And then there was also a part of me that was like, oh, I hope this isn't it. Like I hope it's not over, because I just fell in love with like Sean and Sammy and our cast, and I wanted to like continue feeling that creativity and like camaraderie with them. And so I was a little worried that after Cannes, like I'm like, am I ever gonna see like Yura and Mark again, because we live in different countries. So I was thinking about that, and yeah, I was just like hoping I'll be invited back one day.
I don't think you have to worry about that. So the last question I have is just with all the screenings that you've been to, stuff like this, film festivals, is there a reaction that you got maybe from somebody in the audience, someone came up to you after the movie, or even maybe just something that you read from like a critic or whatever that stuck out to you? Something that you remembered, like, that means a lot to me.
Oh yeah, I had wanted to do this for a long time, but I held a screening in Los Angeles for sex workers. So at the Grove, we filled an entire theater with just incredible people from that community, and so a lot of girls from Stripper Co-op, and which one of our the woman Lindsay Normington who plays Diamond, that's like a lot of her community, and just like wonderful people to celebrate the film and celebrate them. And that, I mean, that was one of the things I really meant a lot to me, is that I represented that community even in just a small way, because I knew it wasn't possible to, you can't represent a whole community, it's just one person's point of view and it's just Annie's point of view. But I was just like, oh, I really hope that, I don't know, someone feels like it means something to them, or like it's an honest representation. And the reaction that I got was so like overwhelmingly amazing and positive, and just like girls were coming up to me like this happened to my friend, or oh my gosh, you remind me so much of my best friend at the club, or this and this, or I love this film, or I feel like this is honest and true, and just so many incredible things. And so yeah, that was the best.
So if you're seeing this movie for the first time tonight, if you are, raise your hand if you are. All right, well, now that you've seen it, you got to spread the word, because people, especially right now, spread the word. And obviously the way to do that is go on, social media. So go on Facebook, go on Instagram. If you're still using X, knock yourself out.